Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at the latest entry-level bookshelf speaker from Bowers & Wilkins, the 607S3. Personally, I'm a fan of B&W speakers. I have always been a fan of their sound, but I'm also a former owner of their entry-level bookshelves, which left me kind of wondering what to expect from these when they arrived. How do they stack up? Stick around. Several years ago, I found a trio of Bowers & Wilkins DM601S2 entry-level speakers on the used market for a song, so I grabbed them and I used them for the front soundstage in the early phases of my home theater. They were a definite improvement over the speakers they replaced, most significantly in the form of more natural voices, but still, they were rather unimpressive. They weren't exciting. They sounded fine, but they didn't sound like the Bowers & Wilkins speakers that I know. They didn't have that sound. And they didn't last long behind the screen, but I kept them around, and later I used them for a little while in my 2-channel vinyl setup. Connected to a vintage Marantz receiver, they sounded all right. Still not the B&W sound I admire, but they were serviceable until I found a pair of towers to bring in. At this point, I offloaded those speakers and I had never thought about them again. So recently, when the opportunity to demo the latest entry-level offering from B&W came up, I was definitely interested, but I also kept my expectations low. Remember, I do enjoy the signature Bowers & Wilkins sound, and I have good friends who have them throughout their homes and home theaters and stereo setups, but I also know that the sound starts at the top of the line and then it trickles down through the product line, and there's usually not much left for the budget models. The 607S3 bookshelf speaker is a refreshing change from the previous B&Ws I'd owned. Gone is the yellow Kevlar driver, and it's replaced with a silvery metallic Continuum driver, which is much more subtle when you keep the grills off than the yellow Kevlar. The 607S3 comes in a very classy finish. I was sent the oak finish, which still has a white face on it, and it's just a really nice modern look that fits very well in our room. Very Scandinavian. They're also available in an all-white and an all-black finish, and custom stands are available. They could not have shipped these speakers out at a better time, as we have a new puppy in the house and he's kept us out of the theater as much as we usually like. So we've been spending extra time up here in the living room listening to music with our Jolita BRC 202 tube integrated amp, fed primarily by a Riga P6 turntable and a Riga Aria preamp, as well as a Bluesound node for streaming from Tidal. Right out of the box, I got them connected, fired up a playlist, and started listening to some of those songs that I know very well, very familiar. The speakers sounded flat and lifeless, very thin and unimpressive. I flipped through some different genres and basically assumed these are going to be about as engaging as my previous entry-level B&W experience, and I locked in my expectations. I set the playlist to loop for Bodhi to listen to while we ran out for a few errands and grabbed some dinner. When we returned a few hours later, literally just a few hours, I turned up the volume a little bit, Bodhi went for a walk, and I unpacked groceries, and I immediately started noticing that just giving them a bit more juice from the amp really opened up the soundstage, and maybe a little bit of that stiffness had been worked out from being right out of the box, but they were starting to sound like, dare I say it, Bowers & Wilkins speakers. I tweaked the positioning in the room a little bit. I tried pulling them out a little bit further, settled with a little bit closer to the rear wall actually, and dropped a new vinyl arrival on the Riga. Having just given myself a massive upgrade of the Phono preamp, I may have become a bit addicted to UHQR MO5 vinyl releases, and The 45 RPM UHQR release of Coltrane's A Love Supreme had recently hit my doorstep. So I juiced the volume just a little bit more on the Jolita, and I sat down in my listening chair here, and the 607 S3s really started to come to life. I knew I was probably going to spend the rest of that evening listening. The S3's titanium dome tweeter is a really good match for the warmth of the tube integrated amp that I'm using. It maintains a clarity that can get lost in that mellow warmth with some other speakers, and it was never harsh at all. The Continuum bass mid-range driver sounds like a Bowers & Wilkins. The size of the driver in these became more evident when I switched over to the UHQR of Steely Dan's Can't Buy a Thrill. These are rated to 52 Hz, and they're down 6 dB at 40 Hz. The 607 doesn't deliver any sub-bass to speak of, and bass is light, but it's not absent. They sound really nice. Bowers & Wilkins has cracked the code to giving their entry-level offerings a sonic signature that holds the B&W DNA, and for that, I applaud them. I had low expectations when these arrived. Not that they would be disappointing or sound bad, but I didn't expect them to sound reminiscent of the higher-level speakers in the B&W family. I didn't expect them to be engaging. I really didn't expect to consider purchasing them. Not for me, but for my son, who's piecing together his first real audio system. We got him a turntable for the upcoming holiday, and I hope he doesn't see this. But these are just a great sounding entry-level speaker. It's a great way to start a system. With the 607 S3, you're not going to forget you're listening to bookshelf speakers, but you may very well forget you're listening to entry-level bookshelf speakers. The sound produced is impressive and it's engaging, and the quality of what you do get with these Bowers & Wilkins speakers very much outweighs what you're not getting. I believe these speakers are fantastic for background listening, for less bass-heavy genres, lower volumes, like jazz. They can get along just fine by themselves. They're not elite, but they are very elegant and engaging, both looking and sounding, for a $900 speaker especially. I think they'd be very pleasing with a subwoofer in the mix, or perhaps look towards the tower version from the 600 S3 line. And that's my review of the Bowers & Wilkins 607 S3 bookshelf speakers. What do you think? Have you heard these yet? Are you a fan of that B&W sound? What should one expect from a $900 speaker made by a manufacturer of B&W's legacy? From a product offering that ranges from this $900 a pair speaker to the $100,000 a pair Nautilus speakers. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Join the discussion over at avnirvana.com, and I'll be back real soon with another Real World Review.